Did you know there was once a man who nearly reduced the world's population by half and conquered most of it? Yes, he really existed. Through war and conquest, he changed the face of the earth. He united the warring Mongol tribes under one banner and forged the largest land empire the world has ever seen. His name was Genghis Khan, the storm that reshaped history. And in this video, we uncover his journey from outcast to emperor, from blood to glory, chapter by chapter. In the cold winds of the Mongolian steppe, around the year 1162, a child was born who would one day shake the world. His name was Temüjin, born near the Anan River in the rugged Kentai Mountains. His father, Yesugei, was a proud chieftain of the Borjigin clan, and his mother, Hurilun, was a woman he had taken by force from another tribe. Legends surrounded his birth. Some said Temüjin was born clutching a blood clot, a symbol of a warrior's fate. Others whispered that a ray of sunlight touched his mother's womb, marking him as chosen by the heavens. Temüjin grew up with his brothers Kasar, Hachion and Temuj, and his sister Temülün. Their days were filled with riding wild horses, hunting and learning to survive the brutal steppe. The children were trained early to shoot arrows on horseback, to track animals, and to live without fear. At just 8 years old, Temüjin was betrothed to Bert, the daughter of Dei Sechin, an ally from the Anjurat tribe. It was a political union meant to strengthen alliances. Temüjin stayed with Bert's family for a time, learning the customs of another tribe, unaware that tragedy awaited him. On his journey home, Yesugei shared a meal with the Tatars, his old enemies. The food was poisoned. He died soon after, leaving his family without protection. When news reached Temüjin, he rushed back, but it was too late. His father's final wish was for his son to lead their people. Yet the tribe abandoned them out of fear and greed. Stripped of herds and honor, Hurilun led her children through hunger and despair. They foraged for roots, fish, and berries, fighting wolves and starvation to survive. Yet through that pain, Temüjin learned the meaning of endurance and leadership. As the family struggled, tensions rose. At 14, Temüjin and his brother Kasar killed their half-brother Bader in a quarrel over food, a tragic act that would shape Temüjin's ruthless understanding of power. Their mother wept in fury, but his surviving half-brother Belgute later forgave them and joined Temüjin's cause. Despite tragedy, Temüjin found brotherhood in another. He met Jamaka, a noble youth, and the two swore a sacred blood oath, becoming Andas, brothers in spirit. They vowed to never betray each other and to lead their people together. But fate tested him again. Temüjin was captured 3 times by rival tribes, bound and beaten. Yet each time he escaped, once aided by a kind man named Sorkin Shira, and later by Baorchu, who became his first loyal companion. These hardships transformed him from a frightened boy into a determined leader. From hunger, loss, and betrayal, a warrior was forged. Temüjin learned that true power wasn't inherited. It was earned through courage, loyalty, and the will to rise again. The boy who was left to die would one day return to unite all of Mongolia and beyond. In his mid-teens, Temüjin returned to claim his promised bride, Bert from the Anjurat tribe. Their wedding was simple but sacred, uniting 2 powerful families. As custom demanded, Bert's father gifted a sable cloak, soft, dark, and precious. Seeking allies, Temüjin offered the cloak to Togrul Khan, ruler of the Karat tribe, and an old friend of his father. Togrul accepted him as a son. With protection and new followers like Gelmi, Temüjin began to rebuild his strength. Soon after, Bert bore his first child, a daughter named Kajin, followed by sons Jache, Chagatai, Urjade, and Talyui, the future heirs of an empire. But peace was short-lived. In the 1180s, the Merkits, seeking revenge for Temüjin's mother's abduction years ago, launched a surprise raid. They captured Bert and others, while Temüjin hid in the sacred Birkin Kaldun Mountains. Desperate, he sought help from Togrul and his blood brother Jamaka, who now ruled his own tribe. Together, they raised 20,000 warriors each and attacked the Merkits at dawn. The victory was brutal. Bert was rescued. Pregnant and traumatized, months later, she gave birth to Jache, a boy some whispered was not Temüjin's. Yet Temüjin accepted him fully, proving loyalty mattered more than blood. For a time, Temüjin and Jamaka ruled as brothers again, sharing camps, feasts, and dreams of uniting the Mongols. But cracks formed. Jamaka's pride clashed with Temujin's fairness. Jamaka favored nobles and luxury, while Temujin lifted common warriors and outcasts, earning their loyalty. With guidance from Hurlun and Bert, Temujin gathered 41 loyal followers, men from humble tribes like the Uriankai and Baryulas. They proclaimed him Khan, leader of a new order based on merit, not birth. Jamaka, feeling betrayed, struck back. Around 1187, the two armies met in a fierce clash known as the Battle of Dalen Baltshut. Jamaka's forces won after days of bloodshed, the ground soaked with the lives of men who once shared tents and dreams. Temujin's army was broken. He was forced to flee east, possibly falling into servitude under the Jin dynasty in China. But he did not vanish. In silence, he rebuilt his strength, waiting for the right moment to return. By 1196, Temujin re-emerged. He allied with the Jin dynasty against the Tatars, earning the title Commander of Hundreds. With Togrul by his side, he crushed the Tatar and Merkit tribes, proving that his leadership could unite even rival clans. Meanwhile, Jamaka's cruelty, boiling 70 young warriors alive, horrified his followers. Many defected to Temujin, drawn by his discipline and mercy. By 1197, Temujin defeated the Jurchen tribe, executing its corrupt leaders in a symbolic wrestling match. Together with Togrul, he launched raids across Mongolia, crushing the Merkits, Tatars, and Naimans. His victories spread his fame like wildfire, and his enemies began to whisper his name with fear. Power, however, breeds jealousy. Temujin's proposal to marry his son Jachai to Togrul's daughter was seen as a threat. Jamaka, ever the schemer, poisoned Togrul's mind. In 1203, Togrul ambushed Temujin at the sands of Kalakaljit. His army was shattered, but not his spirit. Escaping to Baljuna Oasis, Temujin gathered a new force, men of every belief and tribe. There they swore the Baljuna Covenant, to share victory and suffering as one people. Reforged in loyalty, Temujin struck back. Using cunning tactics, his brother Kassar lured Togrul's men into a trap at the Battle of Jejer Heights. The fight raged for 3 days, dust, fire, and chaos filling the sky. In the end, Temujin triumphed. Togrul fled and was killed by the Naimans. Temujin absorbed the Karait tribe, marrying Abakabiki, Togrul's niece, and sealing alliances through marriages like Talyui's union with Sorgatani, a woman of wisdom who would raise future Khans. With the Karait destroyed, Temujin turned to face his final threat, the Naimans. At the Battle of Chakarmount in 1204, he crushed them completely, killing Tayang Khan and scattering their warriors. The Merkits soon fell too. His old blood brother Jamaka, betrayed by his own men, was brought before Temujin. Jamaka begged for an honorable death without bloodshed, and Temujin granted it. As his brother's life ended, Temujin wept. But with that death, the age of tribal chaos was over. The Mongols were united, and the world was about to tremble. After years of endless battles, betrayals, and victories, Temujin finally stood alone as the most powerful man on the Mongolian steppe. In the year 1206, he called a great meeting of all tribes at Kurultai by the Anan River, where every warrior, noble, and chieftain came together. There they gave him a new name that would echo through history, Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. He was now the master of all Mongols. As the new ruler, Genghis Khan changed everything about how the tribes lived and fought. He ended the old system of power, where only noble families ruled. Instead, he rewarded loyalty and skill. Even a poor shepherd could become a general if he proved himself in battle. He built a new army where every man, from age 15 to 70, belonged to a group 10, 100, or 1,000 soldiers, all loyal to him alone. He surrounded himself with the best men, not nobles, but brothers in arms like Byorchu, Jelmi, and Subutai, men who came from humble beginnings but became legends through courage and loyalty. To keep his empire strong, Genghis created an elite royal guard called the Keshig, 10,000 of his most trusted warriors. They protected him day and night and learned directly under his command. But not everyone accepted his rule. A powerful shaman named Kokchu tried to turn the people against him, claiming that the spirits no longer favored Genghis. Genghis saw this as a threat and had him executed, proving that no one, not even a holy man, could challenge his authority. He declared that his destiny was chosen by the eternal blue sky itself. Securing power at home, Genghis turned his eyes north and west. He sent his eldest son, Jachai, to conquer the tribes of Siberia. They crushed the Warets and Kyrgyz, bringing in furs, gold, and food. By 1209, even the Uyghurs, a more advanced, settled people, submitted peacefully and offered their scholars to help Genghis build a new government. The Mongols were no longer just wandering warriors. They were now a united empire, ready to storm the world. After uniting the Mongol tribes, Genghis Khan turned his eyes outward. His army wasn't just fast, it was smart, organized, and deadly. He used speed, deception, and adaptability to crush enemies who were much larger. His horsemen could strike like lightning and vanish like smoke. Next, Genghis marched east to face the powerful Jin dynasty of northern China. In 1211, he mocked the Jin emperor and invaded with his allies, breaking through mountain passes. At the Battle of Yehuling, his 100,000 men crushed a Jin army 6 times larger. Even though Genghis was injured later at Zhejiang, he came back stronger. He recruited captured Jin engineers to build siege weapons. By 1213, his general Ji broke through the Great Wall at Jiang Pass, opening the way to Beijing. The Jin Empire fell into chaos, revolts, famine, and plague. When their emperor fled, Genghis took Zhengdu Beijing in 1215, burning and looting it after a long siege. The mighty Jin Empire was doomed. After conquering China's north, Genghis secured his rear. His eldest son, Jachai, crushed revolts in Siberia. At the same time, General Jib defeated the Kara Kitai kingdom and executed the tyrant Kuchlug, winning the loyalty of local people by promising freedom of religion and fair rule. The next target was far to the west, the Khwarezm Empire in Central Asia. It started when the Shah's governor killed 450 Mongol merchants and envoys in a city called Otrar. Genghis was furious. He gathered 200,000 soldiers, the largest Mongol army ever seen, and swore revenge. He split his army. Chagatai and Urjadeh besieged Otrar. Jachi attacked along the Sirdaria River. Genghis and Talyu crossed the desert to strike deep into enemy territory. By 1220, the great cities of Bukhara and Samarkand fell. When Genghis entered Bukhara, he told the people, "If you had not committed great sins, the gods would not have sent me as your punishment." The Shah fled in terror and later died in exile. His son Jalal al-Din tried to resist, but Genghis defeated him at the Indus River in 1221, where he drowned while escaping. While Genghis consolidated power, his generals Jib and Subutai went on a massive campaign known as the Great Raid. They traveled thousands of miles around the Caspian Sea, destroying armies in Georgia and Kievan Rus. At the Battle of the Khalkha River, they were testing the lands of Europe, learning its terrain and strength for future conquests. While that happened, Genghis's son Talyui ravaged the region of Khorasan. Cities like Merv, Nishapur, and Herat were destroyed, with reports claiming over 1 million people killed. It was total devastation, a warning to all who resisted Mongol power. After years of war, Genghis Khan met a Taoist monk named Changchun in the mountains. They spoke about life, death, and peace. Genghis respected his wisdom and promised to protect holy men. But soon the Western Xia rebelled against him, the same kingdom he had once spared. This time he showed no mercy. His armies crushed them in 1226, destroying city after city. Genghis Khan didn't just win battles, he broke nations with fear. To him, terror was a weapon, sharper than any sword. He believed that by terrifying his enemies, he could make the next one surrender before a single arrow was fired. This idea wasn't new to him. Years before, his former blood brother Jamaka had boiled 70 prisoners alive to strike fear into rivals. Temüjin, soon to be Genghis Khan, saw how fear could control people. He learned from it and made it part of his strategy. When he defeated the Jurchen tribe in 1197, he executed their leaders in front of everyone to send a message: "Defy me, and your tribe will vanish." During his war with Western Xia in 1209, Genghis burned the city of Wulahai to the ground. When he surrounded the capital, Zhongxing, he demanded their surrender, promising safety if they submitted. They paid tribute with gold, horses, and a princess to save themselves. Even then, everyone knew If they resisted again, their whole kingdom would be erased. When he turned his army east to attack the Jin Empire in China, the destruction reached unimaginable levels. From 1211 to 1215, Mongol raids burned crops, villages, and cities across northern China. People starved, diseases spread, and millions died. When the capital Zhengdu, modern Beijing, finally fell in 1215, the survivors faced famine, plague, and even cannibalism. Some say over 100,000 people were killed when the city was sacked. When the Mongols conquered Karakitai in 1218, they spared most people's lives, but paraded the severed head of their ruler Kuchlug to show what happens to tyrants who defy them. Then came the Khwarizm Empire, Genghis Khan's most brutal campaign. It started when one of the Shah's governors killed 450 Mongol merchants and envoys. Genghis's rage knew no limits. He sent an army of 200,000 to wipe Khwarizm off the map. Cities like Otrar, Bukhara, and Samarkand were destroyed. In Bukhara, he spared the artisans but burned others alive. In Samarkand, rivers of blood ran through the streets. The city of Gurganj resisted until the end. House-to-house fighting left mountains of skulls behind. And when Genghis's son, Talyui, led the campaign into Khorasan in 1221, the destruction reached its peak. Cities like Nishapur, Merv, and Herat were completely wiped out. Some historians say over 1 million people were killed in Merv alone. Skulls were piled into pyramids as warnings to the next city armies. Whole nations surrendered without a single arrow fired, just to avoid the horrors they had heard about. It was a strategy that worked, but it came at a terrible cost. Millions were gone, entire cultures erased, and though he built one of the largest empires in history, his name became a symbol of both greatness and fear. August of 1227, after decades of conquest, Genghis Khan's life came to an end. He was about 65 years old, still leading his army during the siege of Zhangxing. Some say he died from a fever or typhus. Others believe he was injured in battle or fell from his horse while hunting. Whatever the cause, his death was kept a deep secret. His generals feared his soldiers would lose hope if they knew their great leader was gone. When he finally died, his followers carried his body back to Mongolia in silence. Anyone who saw the funeral procession was killed to keep the secret. He was buried in an unmarked grave somewhere near Birken Kaldun Mountain, his favorite sacred place. To hide the exact spot, horses were made to trample the ground above his grave so that no one could ever find it. To this day, no one knows where Genghis Khan truly rests. Before his death, Genghis made sure his empire wouldn't fall apart. He chose his third son, Urgedei, to become the next great Khan. He divided the empire among his sons. Jachai received the west, though his brother Chagatai challenged it. Chagatai ruled Central Asia. Urgedei controlled the Mongol heartland, and Talyui, the youngest, was given Mongolia as his domain. Even after Genghis's death, his empire kept growing. It stretched from Korea all the way to the Caspian Sea, the largest land empire in human history. Under his son Urgedei and grandson Kublai Khan, the Mongols reached their peak. Kublai would go on to found China's Yuan dynasty. Ruling from Beijing, Genghis Khan also changed the world beyond war. His laws, known as the Yasa, helped shape rules across Eurasia. The Silk Road flourished under the Mongols, connecting the East and West. Through this, gunpowder, paper, ideas, and even the plague spread across continents. It was both an age of progress and danger. Centuries later, Genghis Khan's image changed with time. In Mongolia, he became a national hero, symbolizing unity and strength. In 1962, his 800th birth anniversary was celebrated, even under Soviet rule. Some, like Marco Polo, admired his leadership and fairness. Others called him a barbarian destroyer. Today, historians see him as both a ruthless conqueror and a genius leader who lifted nomads into empire builders. Even the Mughal emperors of India traced their bloodline back to him. The name Mughal actually comes from Mongol. His descendants sat on thrones from Russia to India, shaping nations for centuries. Genghis Khan's story is not just of war. It's the story of how one man from the steppes changed the entire world. Alright, that's where we'll call it a day. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing history tales. And hey, if there's any story or legend you'd love me to narrate next, drop it down in the comments below.